Hello everybody, welcome to the MaffmanJones movie channel. I'm your host John Maffio, and I realize that this review is extremely late. Several days late. This movie came out days ago, but I did, in my defense, need some time to let this film marinate in my mind, but at the same time, this review should have came out at least a couple of days ago. But anyway, let's get to it. It's Blade Runner 2049, the sequel to the original Blade Runner that has like 20 cuts by Ridley Scott. This one's directed by Denis Villeneuve, who you may know is a director for movies like Prisoners, Sicario, and Arrival. And the story involves Ryan Gosling, who is thrown into a mystery that he must solve, being a Blade Runner in the year 2049, and somehow that involves Harrison Ford and replicants and the world of Los Angeles during that time period. It's very simple, truly. It's Ryan Gosling who has to solve a case. He's solving a case, and somehow that involves Rick Deckard from the original movie, who's Harrison Ford. And that's really it. Everything else, there's a lot more detail in the intrinsic environments. There's a lot more detail in our characters, a lot more detail in how these characters think, and how this world works, the technology, the way people use it. And those are some of the things that I really loved about this movie, and how Denis Villeneuve really took his time in crafting a sci-fi mystery thriller. He really takes his time to build atmosphere. He really takes his time to let us see how characters are feeling in a moment. And in a way, his patience that could be meandering is also a benefit of the film, in my opinion. The first time, I mean, there were moments, I'm not gonna lie, where I did get a little bored, but I also thought in my head, this is gonna feel a lot better after a second, third, fourth viewing, so on and so forth. I need to watch this movie a couple more times to really get a definitive idea of how I feel about this movie, but let me tell you, the experience watching it the first time was magnificent. I was so drawn into the atmosphere of the film. Denis Villeneuve and Roger Deakins especially, his cinematography is unbelievable. The way they show you this world. Even for those who were familiar with it from the original 1982 film with Ridley Scott, you were reintroduced to this city years later, in continuity talking, involving technology, involving characters, involving the story. And Ryan Gosling does a lot of great things with his performance in this movie that are very subtle. Things that once you understand the nature behind his character, you really, you see things that a lot of other actors might find hard to pull off, and it's all in the face. It's all just the way he carries himself, and he kills it. He really does. Harrison Ford also comes to play. When he shows up in the film, he actually does seem like he's adding to his character from the original movie, but he also doesn't phone it in at all. I also really liked Robin Wright in the movie. There's also a couple actresses in this movie who I don't know their names offhand, but I'll put them right here as I'm talking, and they both put in performances that I really think when you walk out of this movie, you take away the most, not just from Ryan Gosling, but from these two. So, really quick, I looked up the actresses' names on my phone because I really felt horrible for not knowing them, but Ana de Armas, her relationship with Ryan Gosling is one of my favorite aspects of this movie, and there's a scene, a love scene between her and Ryan that might be, it's definitely one of my favorites of the year, but in terms of sci-fi in general, one of my favorite scenes in a sci-fi movie ever. I have not stopped thinking about it since I saw the movie, which was almost a week ago at this point. And, just all the things you can get out of that scene. On a visual perspective, on an internal perspective, it's so much going on there. It's a scene where you should feel absolute pleasure, absolute love, absolute happiness, but you feel the exact opposite, and I almost wanted to curl into a ball and die. And Sylvia Hoeks, who is the assistant to Jared Leto's character, who, by the way, Jared Leto doesn't have a lot of screen time in this movie, but I think he does have some great screen presence when he is there. He's often monologuing, and he, pauses in between words, but I liked the performance he gave. But anyway, Sylvia Hoeks, she's extremely intimidating, but there's more to her than meets the eye, as there is with all the other characters, too. You see things, but you can also interpret things based off how they're expressing how they're feeling. Denis Villeneuve trusts his audience, whether you're a fan of Blade Runner or not, to just get into the atmosphere and get into these characters and slowly learn how the mystery is unraveled. This movie is not a roller coaster ride. It's more like the movie ride from Disney World, where you're in a slow-moving vehicle and you're seeing scene by scene by scene. Again, this movie has a lot to offer visually. It's one of the most beautiful-looking movies you will ever see. Roger Deakins' cinematography, every shot, every single frame is like a painting. Every single frame, you could take out of context and throw on a one perfect shot on Twitter. It's really, the work that was put into this movie on a technical level is outrageously great. I guess it could be argued and debated how the plot and the story and the performances go, but I think truly that this movie is going to be something that is revered just as much as the original film as years go on. I think there's a lot to talk about, a lot to debate about. Yes, great performances that are subtle, but also in notches, very, very satisfying when emotions run high. Visually, the movie is, I'm not saying anything surprising here, it's great. Roger Deakins cinematography, ace. The biggest criticism I could have of the movie, not for me personally, is for regular movie-going audiences who might be bored watching the film. Some people undoubtedly will watch this movie and be dubious about it from the get-go, or they'll be excited about it and they'll walk out of the movie and they're gonna be like, what was that shit? That was boring as shit. It's gonna happen. I feel like the word meander is a negative word when it comes to film, but in my opinion, this time around, a movie that meanders and takes its time and has patience is actually a great thing. And you can't just watch this movie on the fly. I think you have to prepare for a movie like this mentally, because it's a long mental endurance test that will definitely get the best of your emotions at points. But if you're ready for a movie like that, I think you'll have a great time with this. Definitely see it in the theaters, see it in IMAX, see it in Dolby Cinema, see it in the most grandiose structure you possibly can, because the visuals and the audio just, they bring it all together. I'm going to give Blade Runner 2049 for now a 4 out of 5 stars. It's a solid, darn good movie. This is the highest 4 out of 5 I could possibly give it, and I think that it'll go higher as years go on. But now I want to know from you guys, have you seen Blade Runner 2049? Have you seen the original Blade Runner? Did you go into this without seeing the first one, or did you go into this having seen the first one? Let me know anything you thought about this movie, the performances, story-wise, anything down below. But if you're going to talk about spoilers, please use some spaces first, or at least give a warning, so for those of you who haven't seen it, don't get spoiled. I'm John Maffio, aka MaffmanJones. If you enjoyed this review, please like, subscribe, and check out all that fun stuff down below. I'll see you guys next time.